Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'd like to welcome you all to the latest session in our Jazz Connector professional development series. This month, we're focusing on digital distribution and giving you all the info you'll need to release music digitally in 2021. So we're absolutely delighted to be joined tonight by Aly Gillani. Aly is the European label representative for Bandcamp, a thriving global music community where fans discover new artists, intimately connect with them, and directly compensate them for their work. Aly's role involves expanding and managing the growing network of labels and artists using Bandcamp to connect with their fans. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Aly so we can get started. Take it away, Aly.
Thanks very much, Adam. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody. Nice to virtually meet you all. We're at sort of, I'm currently in my house in South London, and it's bath time and bedtime for my kids. So if you hear shrieks from beyond the screen, that's what that is. I apologize in advance. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. I've got a presentation to run through with you. Now, the aim of this is to really give you a little introduction to Bandcamp, kind of where we're at, you know, what we're about. And the way I've structured this is to kind of, rather than kind of take you through like, this is a page, this is an album, what I'm going through here is like the principles which you can then use to be successful on Bandcamp. So it's showing you some of the tools that are available and showing you some of the concepts that people who are successful use on the site. So can you all guys all see there should be a screen Bandcamp in the middle of it. Can everyone see that? Yeah, great, fantastic. Okay, so here we go. So where for those who might not be familiar, we're at the point now where fans have paid artists and labels over $672 million using Bandcamp over the 12 or so years that we've been running, and $20 million of that has come in the last 30 days alone. We're currently selling around 50,000 items a day, which is 1.5 million a month. I'm fairly sure on the maths of that, but it's a lot of records, obviously. Interestingly, and something that maybe some of you might not be aware of, half of our sales by revenue now are physical sales. So that's predominantly vinyl, but also CDs, cassettes, T-shirts. I once saw a label that was selling a brick with their logo etched into the top of it. Pretty much anything that you can imagine, people do try and sell on Bandcamp. We introduced a few years ago fan accounts. I'll go into what they are and how they work later on. But since the beginning of 2019, when we really started focusing on getting fans not to come in and buy something once, but to actually stay and have an account, we've been signing 100,000 new fans up every single month, and that stayed consistent through that period, which is pretty crazy. And the community that we've built of artists, labels, and fans now accounts for 1/3 of all sales on the site. So whereas previously you would upload your music, you would sell it, and you'd tell your fans to come and find it, and that was really the only way that they would find your music. Now the discovery tools that we've built drive 1/3 of the sales across the site. So what I'm going to do over the next sort of half hour, 40 minutes, whatever it will be, is take you through what that community entails and how it all works. Before that, Bandcamp Fridays, that's what is signified by this lovely animation that one of my colleagues prepared. Through 2020, sort of from the start of the pandemic and lockdowns and all of that, almost a year ago now, which seems insane, but that's what it is, we decided that we wanted to do something to help artists out. We know in general how hard it is for artists to make a living and to kind of juggle all the many different hats you have to wear. You know, it's not enough just to be amazing at your instruments or at songwriting. You have to, you know, manage itineraries and social media accounts and all the rest of it. And for us, one of our central beliefs is that art should be valued and that artists have value. And it's important for fans to support artists financially so that they can continue to make the art that they love. And so with that in mind, we decided that on the first Friday of each month, we would waive our fees. We normally take 10% of physical sales and 15% of digital sales. And we decided we would waive those fees so that all of the money went directly to artists and labels. And the response was pretty amazing. We've had 9 of these fee waiving days in 2020, and fans paid artists and labels over $40 million across those 9 days. 800,000 fans took part buying something. Now, just to give you some perspective, on Bandcamp Fridays, 93% of the money paid on average goes to the artists. There are PayPal fees, and there are things like subscriptions and stuff which fall outside of the campaign. On a normal day on Bandcamp, it's 82%. So it's still a very high amount of money that's going directly to you as an artist or a label when you're using Bandcamp. An interesting thing is sort of how those Fridays have been kind of, you know, embraced, I guess, by the community. Since March, when we started doing that, 2.5 million fans have bought something on Bandcamp, and they have bought $145 million worth of merch and music. Now, if you remember from the top, I'd said that we're at the point where it's around $670 million, something like that, that has gone all time to artists and labels. You can see that 145 million makes up a large amount of that, and that's all just from the last 12 months. So it's been a time where more and more people are using the site, and more artists are selling their music on it too. A couple of other things that I find quite fun. We sold 2 million vinyl records on Bandcamp last year, and this is my favorite one, almost 500,000 cassettes. I do not for 1 minute believe that all of those people that bought a cassette have a cassette player, but it's heartening nonetheless that they're wanting to get involved and support artists. That's a nice quote about us from the New Yorker. One of the other things that we did last year was the first of our Juneteenth initiatives. So Juneteenth is a day in America that is marked as the final kind of, it's the anniversary of the end of slavery in the US. And last Juneteenth, and we'll continue doing this for as long as we're around, we waive our fees and give what would have been our commission to charities that support racial justice in America. We've done previous fundraisers. We've done ones for the ACLU and also for the Transgender Law Centre, and we will continue to stand up for causes that we believe in. Where this comes from really is we call ourselves an artist first platform, and we really believe we are an artist first platform. But if you are to say you're artist first, it has to be for all artists, no matter of their gender, their sexuality, their race. So it's important for us to stand up for things that we believe in, because in doing so, we're standing up for the artists that use Bandcamp. So look out for more of them coming next year. We've continued the Bandcamp Fridays this year. We had one on Friday just gone. That one on Friday, I think it was over $4 million that fans spent going directly into the pockets of artists and labels. And we're going to carry on doing them at least till May, possibly beyond. We'll see where we get to. If you're not sure if it's Bandcamp Friday or not, you can go to our helpful website, isitbandcampfriday.com. I recommend being there at 8 in the morning GMT on the day of a Bandcamp Friday, when a miraculous change will occur and the background music changes and a few other bits and pieces. So keep an eye out for that. One thing as well, actually, just in terms of strategy for you as artists around Bandcamp Fridays, they're very, very busy days, as you can imagine. Everyone's got their new release out, or remixes, or acoustic versions, or alternate takes, whatever it might be. Sometimes, any of you who kind of use Bandcamp a lot, you know, you get the notification emails every time an artist you bought from in the past releases something new. There are a lot of them going on the Friday, and it can get a bit overwhelming and people can miss stuff. I would actually recommend putting your releases up maybe the day before. You put it up the day before, it means it gets into the Bandcamp system. What a lot of people do, when I do this, I'll be adding stuff to my cart all week and then I'll just check out on the Friday. So it might help you to kind of put something up like on a Wednesday night or even a Thursday, sort of middle of the day. It means that people still see it, but they're more likely to take notice than if it's coming on the Friday when there's just like hundreds and hundreds of these notifications going out to fans. So that's just something to bear in mind. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the various tools that we've got that you can use to maximize your presence on the site. So the first of these is design. Any of you who've spent any time on Bandcamp pages will know they are very, very customizable. They look radically different. So the difference between this one and this, hugely different look to these pages, but they are all regular Bandcamp accounts. And I think the personalization is something that's really important. One of the things that fans love about Bandcamp is that they know they are buying directly from the artist or label. And anything you can do to reinforce the fact that it's your page and yours alone is really, really valuable. One thing I'll point out to you on this page, if you look at the pricing on here, so it says buy digital album, $6.99. So first, a note on pricing: you can set the price that you want for your product. That's totally up to you, and you can make set prices at the track level or at the album level. What you'll notice next to the pricing is it says $6.99 or more. So we operate on minimum pricing policy, where you set the price, but you can actually tell fans that they can pay more if they want to. Across the site, 40% of the time, people pay more than the minimum, which I think is amazing. It's the sort of thing that actually, one of the things with Bandcamp Fridays actually that we found so amazing was we knew artists and labels would be keen to get involved, but it was really gratifying to see fans get involved too. And I think it's because of stuff like this, the paying more, it kind of feeds into that same feeling, I think, which is that fans feel they are part of the community too. And they understand that for a lot of artists, it's not, the limo picking you up from the airport and taking it to your gig. It's, scrabbling around trying to find a bus home at 3 a.m. whilst carrying an amp and a guitar and all the rest of the stuff. So they're willing to put that extra money in your pocket, and anything that shows that this is your page and puts a bit of your personality across, I really think is worth doing. And like you see, you can really you can customize like the background, the header, the colors of all the text and all the rest of it. So it's worth spending a bit of time on that, I'd say. Photographs are also important. We used to make it that if you had a merch item, you didn't have to add a photo of it, but we found that items with photos sold twice as well as those without. So we made it compulsory. Obviously, we know that when you come to put your items on pre-sale, you might not have the stock yet. So we do actually give a link in the edit screen to templates for Photoshop, so you can mock it up if you don't have it. Although what I would recommend is if you are getting a physical product done, when your designer is, doing all of the templates and everything for the print, get them to make a mock-up for you at that time, because it's a lot easier if they do it, and it's quite easy for most of them. Equally on that, you can go down the kind of these beautiful product shots like this one, or the classic infinite white background that we've all come to know and love. But a picture of a record on a crate is equally fine. Again, going down to the personalization thing, I think having some pictures of, so people can really see what they're going to get and really see the product up close and in detail is great. A picture of you holding it, looking pleased that you're holding your record, is also nice too, because again, it's reinforcing that personal aspect of Bandcamp. The next thing, building a following. So you'll notice that on every Bandcamp page, there is a little button that says follow, which I've helpfully circled in yellow here. If you click that button, you get a notification like this saying you are now following Kate LeBon and will receive a notification whenever they release new music. Would you also like to join their mailing list? So people can opt in to join your email list as well. If fans do sign up for your mailing list, you can access those emails in your tools menu. That is your data, not ours. They're your fans, not ours. So it's important that you are able to access that data and use it to communicate with them about what you've got going on in your career. However, if they just follow you, what that means is that every time you release something new, notification emails go out. They look a little bit like this. Those go out as emails to the fans. So it means that they're getting direct marketing into their inbox about new releases from you. Now, most of the time when someone follows you, it's because they've bought something from you in the past. And if they bought something once, they're probably quite likely to buy something again. Another little sort of tip I'd say for you in terms of building a fan base and working out how to do things between releases, what you really want to do on Bandcamp is make sure that at the point where you have your big release, whether that's your album or your EP or a key single, you've got as many followers on the page as possible and as many people seeing what you've got going on so that they get those notifications. So I would say, use Bandcamp Fridays in that way too. If you've got stuff in the vaults that, never got released, or alternate versions, outtakes, demo versions, whatever it is, put it up. You can put it up for name your price with a 0 minimum if you want, but it just keeps things ticking over. And it helps when you then come to your main release that you've got something, you've got a fan base on the site that's kind of ready and waiting for your music. So obviously now you've got those followers. Previously, all we did was just notify them when you put new music out. But we've spent the last few years trying to find and develop new ways for you to be able to communicate with those fans. The first of these was our app. We have 2 apps, one for fans where they can listen to music that they've bought, discover new bits and pieces as well, listen to our radio shows, etc. And then a few years ago, we launched the artist and label app. The app's really good. They're both free, incidentally, and you can get them on Android or iOS. The app can do a bunch of things. You can look at your stats, as you can see on the left-hand screen there. You can see activity on your accounts. You can check your merch orders. You can also actually upload photos of your merch directly from your phone as well, which is quite useful. But the best bit, as far as I'm concerned, is what you see on the right-hand side of the screen, which is the messaging facility. So you can go in and look at all of your followers. You can send them a message, which can be photo and text. And then if you can see in the sort of grayed out area at the top, you can actually target it by location and amount spent. So you could say, I'm going to target everyone within, 100 miles of Dublin. I've got a show on next week. It'd be great if you can come down, and then a picture of you playing live so they get the idea of what they're going to get, or something appropriate. And again, with those messages, we don't just pop them up in the app. They also appear as an email that goes to the fan. So we do our best to make sure they actually see it. It's not like a social media like where, you have 500 Facebook fans and then you post a message and Facebook tells you that 3 people saw it and would you like to spend €10 on boosting that, which isn't that useful and can kind of get you nowhere pretty fast. So we do our best to make sure that the fans get those messages. A note on strategy with that, I would say that it's really worth bearing in mind that most of the people use Bandcamp because they like paying for music. Not just that they like music, they like buying music, which is a very particular subset of your fan base. So focusing on things that are about things they can buy on your page will be the most successful. This one here from Beach House, they had like 37 inches left when they sent the message. They posted it up and they were gone within 10 minutes, because the fans are ready for that stuff. That's what they're there for. So bearing that in mind when you're sending messages, I think will lead to some success for you. Beyond that, at that point, when we developed the app, that was the only way that you could do those messages, which was via the mobile app. But in the last year or so, we've launched a couple of things that allow you to do similar on desktop. So this is your dashboard. We created the artist dashboard, which is the first thing you see when you log into your account. And it has activity. It has items that need your attention. This is actually my label account here, and I've been very bad and not added images to some stuff, which I need to fix. And as you can see on the right-hand side, you can actually see your follow account there as well. Now, with the follow account, we don't display it publicly. We don't want to get into that thing you get on a lot of other platforms where it's sort of a race to how many followers you can get, which is just kind of number grabbing for the sake of number grabbing sometimes and doesn't actually necessarily mean anything. But it's important that you can see it, but we don't see the need to kind of broadcast that to the rest of the world. If you click on below there where it says send followers a message, you then get to a screen like this. You can create a message and send it out. And then the cool thing about if you do it on, well, no matter how you send a message, what then happens is that it appears in your community tab, which is a new tab that will appear on your page. And it means that fans can then comment on it as well. A cool thing I've seen people doing, particularly around Bandcamp Fridays, is a couple of artists. I think Caribou was the first one I saw do it. And he didn't have a release out on Bandcamp Friday, but he just posted a message saying, Bandcamp Friday coming up. Here's 5 records I'm going to be buying. And he put the links in. What are you guys going to be getting? And then his fans were like posting recommendations. And it was really cool. It was a really nice, genuine community of people sharing music that they love, which was really cool. So there are other ways you can use it as opposed to just selling your own stuff the whole time. And yeah, that one worked quite well, I think. Another thing we have is collections and recommendations. So I mentioned fan accounts. This is what a fan account looks like. That's my boss, Andrew. That's his page. Nice, healthy number of records he's bought there. What happens when you have a fan account? If you're on our app, you can go in and listen to any of the music you've bought while you're on the go. You also, as you can see here, have followers and people following you. How that works: once a week, or maybe sometimes twice a week, we send out an email to fans with some links to releases that other fans they follow have bought. So it's really direct marketing, and you choose which fans you follow. So it's completely down to you as a fan what you then receive. If someone then buys something off of your recommendation, you'll get an email saying, hey, congratulations, you helped sell this record, give yourself a high five. So it's a really nice kind of feedback loop with that. And it's sort of like a social network, but again, of people who pay for music, which is really a very important thing for any of us trying to make a living out of this. We also have recommendations. So at the bottom of each page, this is an average Bandcamp page here that you can see. And at the bottom of the page, we have a recommendations footer. Now, we will autofill that with releases that other fans have also bought. So, you can see here, supported by 251 fans who also own this. We'll also put in things that are the same genre that our editorial team have picked out to write about in the past. But you as an artist can actually pick 3 releases to recommend yourself. You can do this by your edit profile menu. And I think a good way to use this is swaps with people you work with. If you're on tour with an artist, you can each post each other's record. So it appears on your page, maybe people you collaborate with, other people in the same scene as you. And it's a small thing, but it's just a free bit of advertising space effectively on your page that you can use to share links to music that you love. I think also actually, that's another aspect of the fan accounts, is if you're an artist that buys a lot of music, publicize that you have a fan account and get fans to follow you. Not every artist is comfortable posting a picture of their breakfast every day on Instagram and interacting with their fans in that way. If you'd rather just show people what music you buy, this is a way of doing that and can be quite effective. The next thing is the music feed. So this is another part of how fan accounts work. So we have a music feed just like you would an Instagram feed or anything else like that, except instead of selfies, it's music that you can listen to. You can just click play at the top and it'll play all the way through. It's another way then, if you can kind of get your music into fan accounts early on in your pre-order phase, it shows up in the feed, which means more fans find it, which means that it appears in their collection, which means other fans then will get an email about it and it can kind of snowball on. So I'd really recommend one of the really good ways of kind of getting this to work for you is to set up a pre-order for your release. So when you set it up, always make sure you've got at least one track streaming and downloadable. If you don't have something streaming or downloadable, your music won't show up in any of these places, because everything we do on Bandcamp is about giving people the chance to listen and then buy. So make sure that you're ready to share a track at the time you put the pre-order live. And if you give yourself a longer period before your release comes out, where it's on the site, but just kind of slowly making its way into all these different corners of discovery, it means that when your album then is actually released, you're already way ahead of the game. It's already appearing in a bunch of places, and it really expands the reach of what you can do with a release. Newsletters. We have a lot of newsletters that we send out. Again, we send these out recommendations based on what other people are buying. And we also send out newsletters from highlighting things that we've written about in the editorial section of the Bandcamp Daily, which I'll come on to shortly. One thing I'd sort of note about all of this, all of the bits I've shown you so far, the newsletters, the fan recommendations, all of that stuff, we're not using AI kind of algorithmic discovery. It's based on actions taken by humans. It's based on a fan deciding they want to buy a release, not just saying they liked it, but paying for it. It's based on our editors or our writers saying we love this record enough to write about it and to feature it on our website. We're really trying to make the online equivalent of a proper record store. So, you know, a fan account is the equivalent of like when you're in a shop and you see someone taking some records to the counter and you're looking over their shoulder because the cover looks interesting. You know, the editorial stuff is like the staff picks that you might see in a counter by the, you know, by the till. And I think if you think about Bandcamp through that lens, where it's like, this isn't casual listeners, this is hardcore music fans who are really inquisitive, really want to find new music. If you think about it in that way, when you're kind of using the various tools we've got, I think you'll find you get more success, because you're kind of acknowledging that you know what kind of audience you've got effectively. Another little thing we've done of sort of to aid discovery on the site is our genre hubs. Again, you know, we like to kind of make a home for different styles of music. I know categorizing music is problematic sometimes, and it would be nice if music was just music and people can listen to it, but unfortunately we do want to try and make sure people find things that they might like. So we've created these hubs pages. You can see we have a new and notable section at the top. So these are picks by our editors and our writing team. We have featured vinyl that looks kind of interesting, some cool artwork. And we also have classics of the genre. So it might be, you know, you like electronic music, here's Aphex Twin or Burial or whatever it might be. And you can, as a fan, actually follow the hub as well and follow the genre, and you'll then get recommendations every week based on key things that we've picked out from those genres. We're sort of slowly populating the site with these because, like I say, we didn't want to kind of just, you know, create an algorithm that would auto-fill it. We want it to be curated, much as I hate that word, and really kind of, you know, stuff that we really believe in. So yeah, you can look out for those. There's sort of an increasing number across the site. We also have our more regular discovery tools. So at the bottom of the homepage and also on the app, you can search for music using a variety of different criteria. So you can actually search by genre, subgenre, location, and format, which is quite fun. You can go down some very odd avenues. If you put in a random set of criteria, you can find some weird music and go on a bit of a journey down a rabbit hole. It's kind of like sort of like the old days of MySpace or something, where you kind of end up somewhere very far from where you started, which I kind of like. The reason I mention this is the importance of tagging your music correctly. Give people the best possible chance to find your stuff. We had a spate a few years ago of metal bands saying that their music was children's music, which is sort of funny in fairness, except A, no one could find them, and B, people actually looking for children's music got a bit upset because all of the album titles had Satan in them or what have you. So it did kind of backfire slightly. So I'd really recommend just taking some time to make sure that you end up in the right spot. Another sort of thing to kind of, well, two things to bear in mind with that. One is, and this is a fun thing for you to try at home. I use fun in the loosest possible sense of the word. If you enter in a set of criteria where there are no releases, you get a nice little kind of hidden Easter egg will appear in the bottom, and I'll allow you to go and find that at your leisure. But it's kind of fun. The other thing to sort of note about genres and tags, I'll come on to our editorial team in a minute, but just a little story to tell you about how they sometimes find things. They will look at our bestsellers just to see if there's anything they've missed. I mean, as a group of music lovers, I've never met a set of people who know more about music than these guys. They're very, very knowledgeable about a very wide range of music. But a few years ago, there was one release that kept appearing in the top sellers that they didn't know anything about. So they had a little listen to it, and it was kind of synthy sort of elements of kind of doom metal, loungy, trip poppy, very strange set of criteria when they explained it to me. Anyway, so they listened, they're like, it's pretty cool, kind of interesting music, not really like anything they'd heard before. And then they looked at the guy's website, and he'd drawn maps for every track, and there was like a lore behind it, and he'd really gone to a lot of trouble. Kind of, okay, well, maybe we could write about this. They went back to the page, and at the bottom, you'll see all the tags that the artist has added. And there was synth, and there was doom metal, and there was lounge, and then there was one that was dungeon synth. And they were like, what the hell is dungeon synth? I've never heard of this genre. So they clicked on dungeon synth. And if you click on a tag, it will then bring up everything that's tagged with that particular tag on Bandcamp. And there were 10 pages of releases that were tagged as dungeon synth. So they realized there was a genre that they had no idea had existed previously, and commissioned a piece about it. I think, what was it called? A beginner's guide to the darkened passages of dungeon synth. And that was the most read article on the Bandcamp Daily that summer, because it was, no one else was covering it, but the whole scene had just emerged and appeared on Bandcamp kind of organically. So the reason I mention that is, if you do have something you're doing that sits in an odd space, speak to your people and make sure you're all tagging it with the same thing, because you might be able to create something that's part of a bigger whole. And I'll come on to kind of editorial criteria very shortly, because there's more stuff around that might be useful for you, but it's just a kind of fun story that I find interesting. So all of that I've just shown you, the community that we've built, the discovery tools that we've created, means that for every 2 cells that you bring in, we will bring in a third. As ever, with all of this that I've mentioned, and kind of the same with any platform that you might use, it's all about how you engage with it. You know, like, there's no real shortcuts with Bandcamp. It's kind of, you've got to engage with it. And if you engage with it, you really do get the rewards, and not just, hey, I've got some more followers, but hey, I can pay my gas bill this month, or wherever it might be. So, you know, it can be really valuable to artists. So I mentioned the Bandcamp Daily, our editorial. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that now. The Bandcamp Daily was founded in 2016. We have 5 editors based in Brooklyn, New York, and about 100 or so freelance writers all over the world with different specialisms. And their job is to cover the breadth of great music on Bandcamp. We also have a editorial designer who commissions illustrations like this holiday jazz one from a couple of years ago, and also we're doing more and more, well, before the pandemic at least, we were doing more and more photography and video pieces as well. I'm going to go through some articles that from the last couple of years that have been particularly popular, to give you a flavor of the sort of thing we cover. This one, Gordon Coang, really cool music. The label that he's on, Music in Exile, they release music from artists who've sought asylum in Australia. So it's a really cool, interesting project, really great music. He's got an amazing story, and this was a very well-received piece on the Daily. We do lists because people like lists. People also like mathcore, apparently. So we did a list about mathcore. We actually do these kind of lists from time to time, focusing on particular scenes. We also have regular monthly columns for a bunch of different genres, including, but not limited to, electronic, ambient, soul, jazz, hip hop, metal, punk, reissues, and probably a bunch more that I've forgotten about. But you know, we do try and cover as wide a range of music as we possibly can. This is a cool feature as well. So we do these scene reports from time to time. Now this one, actually, the writer Tracy pitched an article about the artist in the middle, who I believe is called DJ Rachel, I think is her name. Anyway, she pitched that a piece about her. And the editorial team said, well, actually, there's a few other releases from that part of the world that are in a similar vein to this. Can you go back and do something a bit bigger and speak to a few more artists? So she did. And we created a lovely little illustration and a bit of artwork there as well. And it was a really popular piece, very well received by our readers, led to a lot of sales for those artists too. And, you know, to give you an idea of, like, we don't like doing shortcuts. From the first pitch to when this was published was a 5-month period, because we want to do things properly. We don't want kind of, I'm sure all of you have had that thing where you know, bust your ass trying to get someone to cover your music, and then they just copy and paste your press release and call it an article. And you think, well, was there any point in doing that? You know, we don't want to do stuff like that. We want to do, you know, to give the great music you've made respect and write something proper about it. You know, and I'll come on to timelines and stuff in a second, because that has a bearing on that. This is what an articles page looks like. So you can follow the artist on the left-hand side. We put pictures of the merch that they've got on the right-hand side. So again, really worth having good photos of your stuff. And the key thing is that every article we have, you can listen to the music while you're reading about it. It's really important that you have something streaming during the pre-order phase for this very reason, because we can't consider anything for coverage if there's nothing to listen to. We also have radio shows. We have 3 different radio shows that we do that are all available on the front page at bandcamp.com. We have the Bandcamp Weekly, which goes up every Tuesday. The weekly sort of covers soul, world music, jazz, some bits of house and electronica, that kind of thing. I guess broadly speaking, black music. We also then have 2 new shows, the metal show and the hip hop show, which are on alternate Fridays. And we will be looking to add more shows down the line. As you can see, we always have a featured artist that we commission a bespoke illustration of, and we will do an interview with that artist too, which will form part of the show. So yeah. So the question you're all asking is how you become as happy as these jaunty people and have your music covered in the Bandcamp Daily or in the Weekly. A few things to bear in mind. Firstly, on timescales, if you're looking for a full feature, which would be an interview or a kind of in-depth piece, we're looking at about an 8 to 9 week turnaround time. That's because we need to commission a writer, arrange an interview, potentially a photo shoot. That piece will then get edited and then published. And we want to have it published as close to your release date as possible to give the maximum impact for you and your music. If you're looking for one of our sort of smaller features, so, and I say smaller, they're actually almost sometimes get seen by more people, but album of the day we have our new and notable section, which is just little kind of 1-line reviews for a release that we're interested in, but maybe we can't do a full story about. They go up on the front page. The timeline for that is about 3 to 5 weeks. To pitch to us, we want a link to your release on Bandcamp. It can be a draft, it can be private, it doesn't have to be on sale yet, but just literally copy and paste the URL of your release and send it to us, and we will look at it. Make sure that the about this album section has your write-up about the release as well, so some backstory and some information. Make sure you have a nice photo of yourself on the page as well, and that your bio is up to date, and that there are contact details in your email for fans section so we can get hold of you easily. In terms of what we're looking for, I think the best way to put this is, obviously the music's got to be great, that is a given. But if we're going to do a full feature, it also needs to be interesting to write about and interesting to read about. So stories is what we're really after. I always find it frustrating when you talk to kind of radio people and stuff, and they talk about story behind a release, they mean, did such and such play it, or have you played this festival? Which isn't a very interesting story to me, but fine. What we're looking for is an actual story behind your release. Is there, an interesting person you collaborated with? Does it come from has it got a theme to it that is very personal to you, or that has an interesting angle that would be good to write about? That's the kind of stuff that if you're pitching for a full feature, that's what we're looking for. If it's just, this is an amazing piece of music, great, we'll put that in album of the day or in our new and notable. So I think it's worth kind of targeting how you pitch, so that you sort of do a bit of the editor's work for them, and kind of say this is what I'm looking for. To pitch to us, if you go to our guide, and I'd recommend you all check out our artist guide, which is just bandcamp.com/guide, GUIDE. If you look in the promote your music section there, it has contact details for all of our editors, and it tells you by genre who the best person to send your music to. I think for jazz, it's Diamond Sharp is our editor that deals with most of the jazz stuff. You can also, all of our articles have bylines on them, and most of those journalists are on social media, so you can pitch directly to them if you wish as well. When you send your email in, I would really recommend that you just put in the link to your release on Bandcamp. Hello, this is me, my album's coming out on this date. You could maybe put, for the attention of your, this columnist or this writer, or for the Bandcamp Weekly, wherever you want to angle it, a quick introductory paragraph, and then maybe 1 paragraph max about the release. We don't want a SoundCloud link. We don't want a Dropbox link with WAVs of your album. We don't want loads of attachments with press releases. Just put all of that into the Bandcamp page and just give us really concise information. If you go one step further and say, oh, I saw you featured this, I actually do something a little bit similar to that, or I've worked with that person, or I did a show with them last week, anything that can give an angle and some context, I think will really help. To give you an idea of how competitive it is, we currently get around 2,000 pitches a week, and we post 4 stories a day, plus 4 or 5 new and notables and an album of the day. So it's really hard to be covered. So the longer you can give us, you know, the better chance you have. Yeah, so hopefully that's useful. Okay, yes, we are also very active on Instagram. If you have very cool pictures of some of your music, tag us. We do repost things from time to time, and it's sort of the place that we're most active on social media, I would say. Okay, so I'm going to get on to a couple of new features that we've added in the last few months that might be of interest to you. The first of these is our vinyl service. So vinyl, like I mentioned, is the most popular physical format we have on the site. For people who are selling vinyl, it accounts for 50% of their income on Bandcamp. But we looked at it, and about 12% of releases on the site actually have vinyl added. We all know why. You know, it's very expensive, prohibitively so sometimes. And the minimums that you need can sometimes make it impossible to work. So we've tried to design something that can get around that. We've been piloting our vinyl service for the last 18 months or so. We've had, I think, 65 successful campaigns now. And we've just started rolling it out to more and more accounts. The way it works, you upload the digital album to Bandcamp. You then, if you can go to bandcamp.com/vinyl to ask for access to the service, because it's not available to everyone automatically. If you are given access, you would then choose what kind of record you want, what color vinyl, what kind of cards, whether you want it shrink wrapped, whether you don't, etc., etc. And then how much you want to charge for it as well. Now you can do different tiers. So you can have a basic tier, you can have one where they get their name printed in the sleeve, or they get a free instrument lesson from you, or whatever it is you want to do, and you can limit those. So, you know, if you have a kind of small but really dedicated fan base, you can kind of leverage that to make your campaign successful. If your campaign is successful, we will then manufacture your records for you and post them out to your fans as well. You can also top that up so that if you wanted to get an extra 100 records, say, that you can sell at shows or distribute via your regular distribution, you can do that too and sort of pay for that on top. And we don't charge a premium for that. We just give that to you at cost. This one I'm showing you now was the band Wolfpack, which was phenomenally successful. And we sold 6,000 records of that one. Obviously, not all of them are that big. The fun thing for us was that this, we were midway through shipping this when the first lockdown happened last year. And that was a bloody nightmare, I can tell you, trying to kind of get 6,000 records out to people when a lot of them weren't where they were before and everything was getting shut down. But, you know, we managed to get it done, and I think that was about as hard as it could be for us. So yeah, if you're interested in the service, please go to bandcamp.com/vinyl and check it out. You know, we don't make it open to everybody. You do need to have some kind of following on the site or on your social networks or something, because, you know, if there's not evidence that you've got a lot of people looking at your page, it won't work. You know, still most campaigns you're going to need between 150 and 300 pledges, depending on how much you charge to get it over the line. So, you know, we're trying to bring that down as much as we can and kind of make it as accessible for all as we possibly can, but you know, it's quite tricky. The other thing that we recently launched is Bandcamp Live. This is our live streaming service, which we launched just before Christmas. We obviously expedited that and developed it through lockdown because we could see that it was going to be important for artists while live shows were still not happening. The way this works, this is a ticketed live stream, so it's paid for tickets. We are contemplating allowing free shows down the line, but for the moment, there's a minimum charge, I think, of $1. I think the average price for shows so far, I think we've done 100 shows now, sorry. And the average price, or kind of sweet spot, is $10 or €10 or pounds or whatever currency you're working in. Most are either 10 or 5. You do need a Bandcamp account to be able to view the show as a fan, which is free, but it means that people can't buy a ticket and then share the unlisted YouTube link with all their friends. So you do know that it's 1 ticket per household, or however that cuts down. There's a chat window on the right-hand side, as you can see there. And the coolest bit for me is at the bottom, you can curate a virtual merch table from your products already on Bandcamp, so people can buy your music while they're watching the show. And it actually pops up in the chat window, as you can see on the right-hand side as well, which is really cool. A few things I'd say about this. I mean, I don't know about you personally speaking, nothing replaces actually being in the room when someone's performing and the whole thing, you know, waiting for the show to start and getting someone spilling beer on your shoes and all the rest of it. And I love all that. And I'm personally relatively skeptical about or have been relatively skeptical about live shows. What I've seen on here that really works, I think there's two ways you can go. Everyone saw probably that Laura Marling show last year, quite near the beginning of lockdown, and you know, she'd got the Union Chapel and full camera crew and all of that. It was an amazing show, but pretty much inaccessible to most of us, obviously, because we don't have a camera crew and a beautiful chapel to perform in and all the rest of it. So what we've really tried to do is make something that's open for everybody. If you want to do a show like that, I think that's amazing, because you're giving people something that they wouldn't see if they were there. You're giving them the drone footage, you're giving them the kind of up close and personal camera work, and it's actually not the same as as if you were there in person, but it has things that you wouldn't get if you were there in person. If you go completely the other way, and this one that's in the mock on the example that I've got on the screen at the moment is a good example. This artist, Dent May, I actually watched this show because it was one of our sort of pilots, and it was really cool. He was doing it fully live. Like, you can do a pre-recorded show and broadcast it as live. His show, he was doing fully live, and he had two setups. He had one for his keys, as you can see there, and then he had another one with his electric guitars, and he moved between the two, and he had a friend who was changing which camera was broadcasting. And the one with his guitars, he had his laptop on a stand, and he was shouting people out in the chat room. He was answering questions. He was doing requests even. And like, that was really cool, because you're not going to get that in a live show either. You know, you don't go to a live show and have someone shout you out from the stage, unless you're their mate or something. And so for me, that was the really interesting thing. It's where you're giving something that's different to what people get in a real life setting. And really, if you're able to give that intimacy, it can be really compelling for fans. Another show I saw was the label International Anthem, Chicago jazz label. And theirs was really great. I think it was like I don't know if it's in a studio or a place where one of them lived or something, but they just looked so relaxed and comfortable, and they were just kind of jamming, really. There was no like massive structure to it. It was very loose, but you really felt like you were kind of being let behind the curtain, so to speak, and seeing something that you wouldn't see normally. And that was really, really great as well. The cool thing about the merch table is that we've developed here as well is we're seeing some acts where they're earning 50% of what they earn in tickets from merch sales on the night as well. If you've got a new record out, you can release special merch items on the day, and it can really help you make extra money. Ordinarily speaking, we'll be taking a 10% cut of ticket sales, but until the end of March, we're waiving our fees, so all of the money would go direct to you from ticket sales. So if you want to give it a go to bandcamp.com/live. You can apply to have your account enabled if it's not already enabled, and give it a go, because it's really cool. I've seen some really interesting shows, and it's kind of changed my mind about what you can do with a live stream. You know, I think just sort of rocking up in a venue and performing as though you're performing to a crowd that's there, it can be okay, but I think doing something a bit more inventive and a bit more interactive with your fan base, I think can really get you good results. So yeah, and I mean, here's exactly what I'm sort of example of what I mean. I mean, this is a show just from someone's living room, and it was amazing. Like, it was very lo-fi in terms of, you know, that kind of fairly abysmal lighting that they've got there, but it was great, and I really enjoyed it, and you got a really good sense of the artist's personality, which was really cool. Last thing to mention is we do have a record store that we run in Oakland, California. It is obviously closed at the moment, but will reopen one day. You can buy records, and we also, as you can see on the right-hand side, have a performance space on the right of this right of the picture, where we do shows and installs. So if you are ever in the Bay Area, please look us up, pass by. We're always looking for people to do shows and stuff like that. So drop us a line. There's a couple of nice quotes about us. I'm not going to try and read them because they have very, very long words in, but you can figure those out for yourself. And yeah, that's kind of it for what I've got in terms of you know, presentation for you. I realize that's a lot of information and I talk quite fast, so apologies if you missed anything. Most of it you will find on the guide. So bandcamp.com/guide kind of has a lot of this information, but in a, laid out a bit differently, obviously. But it gives you the kind of ideas behind what's going to be successful for you on the platform. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now. There we go. Hello. And yeah, I don't know if there were any questions that anyone had. But if you do, feel free to shout out or put them into the chat and I'll do my best to answer.
Can I ask a question, Aly?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, I'm Roger Mehta from Tipperary in Ireland. So how are you doing? Aly, I wonder, can you help me? Because what I want to do is I want to release a first single. Now, that's all that I have. I have the song recorded. I have the video done. I want to release it as a single and put out the single first, and if there's interest there, then I'll kind of record more. Yeah. So what advice could you give me then for kind of somebody trying to get the single out there first, and obviously trying to make it work? I do have a good backstory with the song and kind of with myself. So yeah, what advice could you give for a first single?
I mean, I'd say, yeah, get all the stuff I said before about just get it up on the site, get it up as a private draft as early as you can and send it over to us. All of you can feel free to send things to me as well. I'm just Aly, ALY @bandcamp.com. You can send things my way. Right. I don't decide what gets covered in editorial, but if you send me something, I can guarantee they will listen to your music and they will read the story about it. And then it's up to them. And if it's appropriate for one of their writers, they'll pass it on to the writers too. So I'd say, you can add video to your page as well. So you can have the video appear at the top of the page if you've got a video for the song. Yeah, when you go to upload it, you just select track instead of album. If it's just a single track, that's an easy way to do it. And you can then, if you then made an album later on, you can add that loose track into the album too. So it kind of will become part of the larger piece as well if you want to, without having to kind of re-upload it. But yeah, so I just say it's harder when I can appreciate when you only have sort of one thing to go right now, but get it up there, direct people to the page and see where you get to. I mean, I'd say sort of in a wider level, when you're kind of looking at where you direct people to when you have your music go up, obviously I think you should put your music everywhere where people might discover it. I wouldn't say only put it on Bandcamp and don't put it on other. Put it everywhere where people might find you. However, you can choose where you guide people to. Now, if you guide people that you already know and are in your network and are interested, maybe they've seen you play a live show, etc. If you direct them to streaming services, okay, you're not really going to earn a lot of money, and you don't know if they really went there or not. If you direct them to Bandcamp, A, you might earn some money, and B, you know who they are because they're now following you as well, probably. And that means you can then build that fan base to then let them know about your next stuff that you've got coming up, etc., etc. So,
so it might be worthwhile then to put it up to Bandcamp first, right before, because I'm trying to organize a single release and the whole strategy behind releasing a single, which is a few week lead in time. So basically, if I get the song up to Bandcamp and start to get people to listen then, and then before I release it, can I then email to look for kind of editorial or for bloggers?
If you upload it and keep it as private and send us the link, then we can see it, but the public won't be able to see it. And then you just say to us, like, look, you can put the release date in the thing, so we'll know when it's going to be out. I'd probably suggest doing it that way. But I'd really recommend looking at the guide as well, because it's got lots of good information about how to release and how to use the different tools that you've got on the site. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, mate.
No worries. Yes.
I think I think Adam Nolan has a question, not our Adam, the other Adam, doppelganger Adam. And Matthew Noon, did you have your hand raised, Matthew? Yeah. Before we'll go. I think I saw Matthew first, and then we'll go to Adam. But before that, I'm just going to be cheeky and just slip in a question to Ali, because it basically, for me, you know, we had Matt Fripp from jazzfuel.com.
Yeah.
Matt's a great guy. We had him at our last Jazz Connector, and you know, I suppose there was an issue about, well, two things. One, you know, the broader picture of where music distribution is going when it comes to digital. You know, let's say over the next 5 years. I mean, we know there are certain things that are inevitable. Like, I mean, you know, technology isn't going to suddenly not be there. So this is kind of, you know, we have to embrace this to some degree. But you did mention about getting your music out there everywhere. And I think some artists might be conflicted about what that means. I mean, does that mean you put all your stuff up on Spotify and Bandcamp as well? And, you know, I mean, do you try and drive people to Bandcamp because that's where there's better direct sales? But I think people, you know, are understandably probably questioning where to pick and stick, you know, and because all the platforms have completely different metrics.
Yeah. It's a really good question, and it's a hard one, really. I mean, like I say, personally, I feel like, particularly when you're kind of an emerging artist, or you're not like established enough that, you know, you've got a fan base of several thousands that are sort of, you know, eagerly awaiting your next release. Personally, I mean, you know, and this is what I did with my own label. I put the music absolutely everywhere because you've got to give yourself a chance. But I choose where I prioritize to send people. And for me, that's Bandcamp, because, like I say, I get the most amount of money. I get paid immediately, so I'm not waiting 60 or 90 or whatever many days before that money actually filters through. And I'm getting that fan base that I can then communicate with again. You know, I mean, playlisting on streaming services, it can be great. It can make you good money as well and get you in front of more people. However, any of you who've used a streaming service will know, if you listen to a playlist, if you don't look at your phone when you're listening to something, you don't even know you listen to it. People could listen to your music and never actually even seen your name because it's there and it's gone. It's not even like a radio station where someone's announcing what track's being played. So, you know, that can give you a short-term win, but in the long run, it might not actually be really doing much for you, you know? Whereas, like I say, if you're doing it on Bandcamp and people are buying from you, then you're getting that data. I think like that for me is one of the really important things going forward, is being able to communicate with your fans without having someone else be the middleman in that. You know, we all know like how platforms kind of change and usage of them changes over time. You know, I mentioned MySpace earlier on. You know, I had the whole thing of having my top 8 on MySpace and putting things in there and making connections. And then it just disappears because people aren't interested. I mean, I was talking to a friend yesterday about how we don't seem to use Facebook anymore. It's just sort of a bit of a wasteland for doing promotional stuff, and even like people just don't use it so much. So it's sort of like you can invest a lot in these networks, but then if the usage goes down, you're kind of left. And what can you do? You know, so I think like, you know, anything you can do to port fans that are from these sort of lean back casual platforms into somewhere like Bandcamp, where you actually have their data and you can then communicate with them directly just by using email or you know, I'm obviously using our service, but you know, we do try and get you their emails as well, so you can do that. I think that kind of future-proofs you. Do you know what I mean? Because people are always going to have an email address. They might not always have an Instagram account or a Facebook account or a Spotify subscription. You know, who knows? Yeah. So yeah, I think for me, that's the key, is taking control of that stuff yourself so that you're not reliant on anybody else. Yeah.
That's a good point. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah,
I think Matthew Noon is next there. If you want to hop in, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks very much. That was a great talk, Ali. Really appreciate it. Really informative. It demystified the whole platform. It was great.
Cool.
Yeah, I have just two quick questions. One about the vinyl and the live streaming platform aspects that are going up. So I just checked there. I think I requested access for the vinyl a while ago, but I haven't. Says my account doesn't have access yet. Is that a time thing, or is it something to do with my account, or what's the sort of turnaround for that?
It's a time thing. We've had a lot of people email that in, and we're still a relatively small team. So
okay.
Yeah, hold tight for a little bit. You know, I mean, we do, like I say, we do have the thing where we need to kind of see that there'll be, you know, a good chance of you being successful, because it is quite a labor intensive process from our side. You know, we've got our vinyl reps who've got, you know, decades of experience of manufacturing and dealing with the manufacturers and stuff, and they want to make sure that it's going to work for them and for you, more importantly. So yeah, give it some time. Like, they're pretty overwhelmed at the moment, but they're trying to kind of get back to as many people as possible. And if you're still getting stuck in a week or two, just drop me an email and I can investigate and have a look for you. But you know, and at least, you know, they sort of make those decisions on that. But yeah, it's a little bit busy at the moment.
And sure, and then the next question was about the live streaming. Is that, what's the sort of turnaround in getting access to that?
That is, we're sort of doing it in batches at the moment. We're trying to open up more and more. Again, if you email me, I can ask. That's a bit easier. The only sort of really with the live thing, we're just making sure that the artists are kind of legit and trusted, because obviously what we don't want is people setting up shows and then never doing them, and then we've got to refund people and it just becomes a complete mess. So, you know, we just want to kind of know that people haven't got a history of being problem sellers in the past, or kind of not sending their records out or whatever. So yeah, that should be a bit easier, to be honest, because it's, you know, there's less of a it doesn't matter if you do a small scale show. I mean, I went to a show sat here, but you know, I saw a show last week that my friend did, that there were like 10 of us watching maybe, but it was great. And like, it was nice. I knew half the people, so we were chatting in the chat room and all that, and great, it's fine. You know, it kind of makes a focus around things. I think we're all looking for distraction at the moment, aren't we? So it's, you know, it can be good from that point of view. Yeah.
Okay, cool, great. That's great. Thanks very much, Aly. Yeah.
No problem.
Cool. Great. And I think Adam Nolan, not me, but the other Adam Nolan is up next.
Yeah, I was just wondering about a few things. So like, I was just wondering, like, how can I get, like, for instance, like, more followers, but from the Bandcamp account, rather than going to social media and posting my Bandcamp, you know? I know tags, obviously, like, that's probably where I've got a lot of followers, like, just by tagging certain things, and people out of nowhere just show up and like, oh, that must be from a tag. But in general, is there some kind of forum I missed?
Yeah, no, there's nothing really like that at the moment.
Okay, no, I was just curious.
But I think one thing you can do is, like, the biggest way is through other fans finding it and kind of, and then it appears in the other, you know, the other places and what have you, other fan accounts. One thing that I saw, and I keep meaning to do it myself, I saw like not a promoter, like a PR person in Australia that I know. When he sends out his promos to people, he sends out a Bandcamp download code with it. And then if you want it, you can download it via Bandcamp, but then you also add it to your collection, which means it appears in your fan collection, which means other people will see it in those recommendation emails. Okay. So it's another kind of canny way. And I mean, I've actually done it in the past, because I've got quite a lot of followers on my fan account because I work at Bandcamp and, you know, whatever. And I'll sometimes buy my own releases so they come things so that more people see it, because people might know me, but they might not know the label if they're not, you know, kind of necessarily kind of following us or whatever. So yeah, there are things like that you can do, where you can kind of, like, you know, if you've got friends who you know have use Bandcamp a lot and buy a lot of music, like, gift it to them. You can use the download codes to give them a free copy, and it'll then appear in their collection. So that's maybe one way of doing it. I think the other thing is, you know, discount codes occasionally, like, again, around Bandcamp Fridays, making tracks free for a short period of time, like if you're just trying to get people in. And also, if you've got 3 or more items on your page and they're all paying the same person, you can offer a full discography discount as well, so people can get a percentage off if they buy the whole thing. And again, if you do that, everyone who's following you gets a notification. So it again can kind of kickstart that process.
Great.
So yeah, those are a few little strategies that I'd recommend.
There's just one more thing as well. I was just curious about like video releases. Let's say I had like an album that was done and it was videoed, but I later wanted to release a video of the album. I just haven't explored it yet. Is that a thing that's on the page? Like you, like not a live video now. I mean,
yeah, no, sure. So you can. There's a few things you can do. You can, if you have a pro account, you can add video to each track on your page.
Okay, cool.
So you could do that, and then they actually show up on the page as well, so people can see it. Now they wouldn't be buying it; they'd just be seeing it, and then it might encourage them to buy. You can as well add bonus items, and
I've used them. They're very cool.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
We do limit the type of files you can use, but it is possible for us. Like if you have a reason for wanting a different type of file, you can contact us, and we might be able to enable it depending on what it is. So, you know, if it's not working, just let us know, and if we can make it happen, we will. I think sometimes, you know, it's things like we don't want people like putting in massive files into the bonus items, because it can then mean that the download is so large that it fails for a lot of people because of their internet not being good enough, and then we get like email, you know, and it just can create more.
Great. I just have one cheeky more question, if you don't mind. So like I use Instagram for a lot of kind of promoting stuff, and like I put Bandcamp stuff on my profile. I've seen the thing there, Linktree. I use Linktree, but it's just when it comes to my stories, like I would announce Bandcamp stuff and I'd screenshot usually, like what, let's say stuff like SoundCloud and other stuff like that, I can directly link to it, and I feel like you know, with Bandcamp is my favorite to use. Is there a way of getting that on the story, like, or do you have to have a certain amount of fans, or is it that just something that hasn't happened?
I think we have had. I think some of my colleagues have definitely spoken to people at Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you where that's got to.
Okay.
It's quite difficult with those platforms because they're constantly changing things, and you know, you used to have it that you could, like, you know, you just pasted a Bandcamp link into Facebook and it would have a player, and then that stopped working, and then it started working again, and it's just because you used to be able to put a Bandcamp shop into your artist page.
Okay.
I think Facebook changed something and that stopped happening anymore, and I think for us we were just spending so much time constantly trying to, you know, shuffle it around and change the code, and it just became a bit unworkable. But I can't be more sort of helpful on that.
No, that's cool. It was just because, like, I find sometimes, like, if I'm putting a release out or something, I feel like I just have to screenshot, you know, and then I put it on the Instagram post. And sometimes, like, I was just wondering, was there a better way, and had it come around yet? That's all. One thing
I've seen people do, which is quite good, which is sort of an extension of the screenshot, is to do a screen record, where you're like on the page and you scroll up and down so they can see everything, and you press the button to play it and it will start playing, and then you can then upload that as a video.
Cool.
That's kind of more compelling way of doing the same sort of thing. So I've seen people do that. It's quite
awesome. Good. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Thank you, man.
So I think Pat has his hand raised in there. So if you want to ask your question, Pat. And then just before that, I'm just gonna compile some of the questions that came up in the chat, and then I might ask them to you, Ali, and then people can jump in if they have follow-ups on their ones.
Sounds good. Perfect. Cool.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks, Ali. Thanks for the presentation. Really enjoyed it. Pat Ryan is my name. I put my first song on Bandcamp a while ago, but mostly I look after other musicians. I run a thing called Pat Ryan Music Services, and I help musicians who are not keen on paperwork and of any description, and I set them up on Bandcamp, Imro, Rap, PPI, that kind of stuff.
Oh, great.
And I live in Clare, so I have a lot of that stuff happening down here. A lot of trad and folk musicians, particularly. And kind of on a follow up about files there, a lot of people are contacting me and asking me, is it possible to put up their old CDs digitally, but I don't know if any of them have WAV files or anything like that.
Right.
Is it possible to bypass that to get them up on Bandcamp or no?
It's not, unfortunately, yeah, because the way we work is you put in the WAV or FLAC or AIF or whatever it would be, and then we convert it into all the other different formats. So yeah, there's no way around that, unfortunately, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I mean,
I didn't think so.
You know, if they've got the actual CD, you could rip that at CD quality and that would work. But if it's just, you know, the old files and their MP3s, then yeah, there's not much you can do, I'm afraid, on that one.
Yeah, MP3s don't work, because one guy sent me an MP3 and it was a nightmare. I had to convert it to WAV, and the time it took and the cost, and you know, for him or for me, it wasn't worth it. Anyway, that was my question. Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
Yeah, so Aoife asks, hi Ali, do you recommend Bandcamp Pro over the basic account?
Yeah, I think it depends what you're doing. I mean, Pro costs $10 a month, I believe, and it gives you batch uploads, so you can upload full albums at a time rather than track by track. You get a few extra stats, you get video. I'm trying to think what other features you get. I think it's that sort of thing. If you're really using it a lot, then it's worth it. If, you know, you're only doing it kind of, you know, if you're a solo artist and you're releasing sort of every so often, unless you're really going to want to use the video thing, the basic account is fine. It will do the job. One other thing is that if you are an artist on a label and you become part of a label account, you automatically get a free Pro account. So yeah, that's another way of kind of not getting around that, but like getting the same features without sort of subscribing yourself. Yeah.
And Ali, do you have to have a Pro account to use the Bandcamp Live feature that's rolling out?
I don't believe so. I think it's just open to anybody. But
okay.
But yeah, if anyone runs into any trouble with any of that stuff, then just drop me a line. I can help out.
We know a guy in Bandcamp now. That's great.
Don't tell anyone.
There's another one here from Christoph. He says, hi Ali, in terms of settings on Bandcamp, would you recommend to leave your full album on an open stream?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, one of the things that's sort of different about us, I suppose, is that we have full streams of tracks. We don't do snippets. Really, the idea behind this is kind of treating people like grown-ups, you know, like they could go and listen to it somewhere else. You might as well let them listen to it here, where they might then actually buy it. It's automatically set that you get 3 free plays from any IP address or login before they get locked out until they buy it. Personally, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that people are using Bandcamp as an alternative to a streaming service. Because if they were, it's not a very good streaming service, because that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed for you to buy stuff. Obviously, when you buy it and then you can then stream via the app, that works very well, but just through the regular pages, it doesn't. I would say, generally speaking, it's good to have the full thing there so people can have a listen. But equally, you know, what some people sometimes do is they have the pre-order up where you've got one track available for streaming and download as an instant download when they buy it. They release the pre-order and have everything available through that period where everyone's wanting to buy it and all of that stuff. And then maybe a little bit later, they sometimes turn off streaming for a few tracks just to kind of, you know, incentivize people. So I don't have particularly strong views either way. The only thing I would say is that in pre-order, make sure you have at least one available. And then when you do set it live, I think having a handful at least is good, just so people can get an appreciation for it, you know, before they buy. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Great. Then our Friel asks, hi Ali, do you have any more advice or tips for successful album pre-order campaigns? And also a second question, if you don't mind, are there certain genres that are more popular on the Bandcamp platform?
So I'll take the second question first. You know, when I started at Bandcamp 6 years ago nearly now, and then there definitely were genres that did better than others. Like metal was really big. Video game soundtracks for some reason were massive. Certain styles of kind of underground hip hop were very big. And then things like vaporwave and stuff like that came through. I think now everything is on there and everything does well. It's less about the style of music and more about the style of fan. and it's the super engaged, really inquisitive, wants to buy stuff to show how much they love you kind of fan that's on Bandcamp. So yeah, you know, I mean, I think every genre I can think of, there are very successful artists on there, and there are very unsuccessful artists. You know, like you're always going to get that kind of variance. But I think there's genuinely, for like most genres, there is a healthy fan for you waiting there. Like, so yeah, you know, I wouldn't say there's too much kind of preference on either side. And what was the first question? Was that about pre-order campaigns? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was if you have any more tips or advice to running a successful pre-order campaign.
I think like getting the timing right so that you've got a good run into when the album actually comes out is important. You know, that can really vary. I mean, some labels I see now are like doing 4-month pre-order campaigns, which to me seems that's very long, but that's when they've got a big artist with a lot of activity planned. I would say make sure that you're ready to share a track before you announce the pre-order so that you can have that download and stream turned on, as I mentioned before. I think if you can like add extra tracks to be available for download and stream during the pre-order phase, you know, maybe if you've got premieres in blogs or you've had it, you know, debuted on the radio or something like that, and then you can use the messaging service to let people know, to let your followers know, like another track available now, and it might bring a few more people in and get a few more pre-orders done. I think having a physical product of some kind, I sort of, you know, joking about the cassettes earlier on. I think one of the reasons cassettes do so well is that you can get 10 done. You don't have to get 500 or 1,000 like you do with the CD or with the record. And that just means that you've got a physical thing for people to buy just because they want to show that they really love you and want to support you. But it's not, you're not going to end up with piles and piles of cardboard boxes of unsold stuff in your house, which, you know, can be a bit frustrating. I think also being a bit fun and personal with the merch. A couple of really cool examples I can think of, like one really simple one that we did on my own label. We had an artist who released an album called Travel Light, and we got some lighters, cigarette lighters done that said and it was Travel Lighter, like, you know, very bad pun, but it was fun. They were £2, nice and easy to buy, and we sold quite a lot of them, and it was a good way of getting people to sort of engage with the music and the album. On a more grand scale, and just something I think is really cool, there was a cassette label in Canada called, I think, Tiger Blood Tapes or something like that, or Tiger Tape. Anyway, they released a special edition of an album which was on a Russian burner phone. So you literally bought that version of it. They sent you this Russian cell phone in a jiffy bag, and you open it up, put your headphones in, and you can listen to the tape. And we did a feature about it on the editorial, and they sold out instantly because it's just such a cool idea. And like, you know, and so yeah, so I think like having interesting merch items that are personal to you or related to the project, something that's just going to capture people's imagination and kind of get them to buy into what you're doing, I think that can really help in the pre-order phase too. You know, and it needn't be that you're spending loads of money. It can just be quirky and interesting. You know, it can be, you know, hand drawn CD covers that you do, or like, you know, prints of stuff that you can really like literally get done one at a time if you want to, so you're not kind of having to spend out before you're ready to, you know, put it on sale. But I think, yeah, definitely like the merch side of it really helps with pre-orders. So if you're able to do that, that's worth doing.
Have you ever considered, you know, the interlink between musicians and visual artists? You know what I mean? Because visual artists might be looking for a platform to showcase their work, and this could be an exchange idea platform for artists who are looking to create visuals for their works, you know, be that merch or physical product.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I think we've thought about stuff like that, but we haven't put anything into place. But it's a good point, because yeah, you know, you want that kind of exchange. I think because we don't really have like forums or anything like that, there's not really the scope to do it. But maybe down. I mean, actually, I tell you what, one thing I have seen that happened. I did see an artist post a message to their fans saying, "What do you all do? Do I know any video people here, or any of you amazing artists, or any of you videographers, and they had some replies, and they worked with a few of those people. So I've seen things like that, but it's obviously on a very kind of specific scale, like, and reliant on the artist, but yeah, that's a good, I'll have a think about that and discuss it, 'cause it's a good point.
Okay,
brilliant. Well, just want to give a last chance if anyone else here wants to ask a question before we finish up.
have you ever done, has Bandcamp rather ever done an article on Irish jazz?
I'm pretty sure we've covered Irish jazz artists, but I don't know if we've specifically done one on Irish jazz. I don't know. But get your pitches together, send it over.
I think we'll write you a nice email, Ali. I think we've got some excellent musicians here. It's a pretty diverse scene, and I think a spotlight on the Irish jazz scene would be interesting for Bandcamp, for the readers as well.
Yeah, I think that'd be
I see
great.
Roger. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think the key thing is if you've got specific key releases that are coming up in 3 or 4 months time, where you're like, look, these are coming up and they're part of this scene, and then here's all this stuff that's already out, like that kind of drive it. I think, obviously I can't speak the editorial team, but that would give it more of a chance, you know what I mean? So worth it.
Just a very quick question before you finish up, Ali. Sorry for coming in again. I just want to clarify, can I put up a song on Bandcamp and hopefully, start selling a few, and then have a proper release date? So there's a bit of pre-stuff going on in the background, and then email you and say, okay, it's been officially released on, May the 5th or...
you can. I would say that it's hard. I mean, I think with the editorial, it's very much kind of, because it's so competitive, we're trying to find stuff that people don't know about yet, and it's kind of fresh. So you could do it, but I would say just send it and have it release whenever you want to release. I mean, some people put stuff up on Bandcamp a week earlier.
Until I let the track go live.
Correct. Yeah. Well, you can let us know beforehand, but then have it go live at the point where it goes live, and be consistent. I'd recommend that personally. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks, mate.
No worries.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I just want to give a massive thanks to you, Ali, for sharing all those valuable insights with us today. I certainly learned an awful lot, both as a musician and a music fan, and I'm really excited to go explore some of the stuff that was mentioned. We hope you'll all join us at the same time next week. We're going to be chatting to Henriette Hemdell, the Marketing and Development Coordinator for Europe and the UK at CD Baby, who will be telling us all about the platform and how you can make it work for you. So thanks again to everyone for joining and tuning in, and we hope to see you all at the next one.